Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video, and in today's video we're going to talk all about Valve's new blog post that is very interesting. They are implementing a new revenue share tier for publishers and developers releasing their games on Steam, and this is so important because I uploaded a video a while back talking about some big publishers leaving Steam. Games like Call of Duty Black Ops 4, games like Fallout 76, those two titles were not released on Steam, and it looks like Valve is finally taking measures to remedy the situation and retain all of the publishers and developers that they already have on their platform, and I want to go over what all of this could mean. So let's talk about this. Valve put out a new blog post stating new revenue share tiers and other updates to Steam's distribution agreement. Now I want to specifically go over two paragraphs out of this blog post because this is where most of the information comes from. Quote, the value of a large network like Steam has many benefits that are contributed to and shared by all the participants. Participants being those that release games on Steam. Finding the right balance to reflect those contributions is a tricky but important factor in a well-functioning network. It's always been apparent that successful games and their large audiences have a material impact on those network effects, so making sure Steam recognizes and continues to be an attractive platform for those games is an important goal for all participants in the network. With that in mind, we've created a new revenue share tier for games that hit certain revenue levels. Starting from October 1st, 2018, revenues prior to that date are not included. When a game makes over $10 million on Steam, the revenue share for that application will adjust to 75% and 25%. 75% going to the publisher, 25% going to Valve. So the first 10 million, the standard agreement will be in place, which they actually don't specify what that exactly is. I've heard 65-35, I've heard 60-40, but I don't think there's a specific amount that we know. And the blog post continues saying, at 50 million, the revenue share will then adjust to 80% and 20% on earnings beyond 50 million. Now, here's what's interesting. Revenue is just not on game sales. Revenue includes game packages, DLC, in-game sales, and community marketplace game fees. Our hope is this change will reward the positive network effects generated by developers of big games, further aligning their interests with Steam and the community. Now, $10 million does sound like a lot. However, if a game that's released at $59.99 sells 1 million copies, that already puts you at the $60 million threshold, so you're already well beyond that $50 million mark, and you're gonna be reaping a lot of extra revenue. Now, a game selling 1 million copies at $59.99, that's very few and far between. I don't think a lot of games sell that well. I don't even foresee an upcoming release like Just Cause 4, which I feel like is a pretty major PC release. I don't think that's gonna sell 1 million off the bat, but it's definitely gonna surpass that 10 million mark. But at the same time, you would think that these big publishers like Activision and Bethesda would work out their own agreement with Valve. I don't think they would just go forth and be like, alright, we'll accept the revenue split that every other indie developer is also accepting. No, Bethesda's a major publisher, Activision's also a major publisher, so you would think publishers like Activision and Bethesda would work hand in hand with Valve, but I don't know that for a fact. That's just speculation on my part. But the reason this change is coming to an effect, I think, directly parlays with the fact that Valve might be a little bit scared with all of these games leaving Steam. I mean, could you imagine if a publisher like Bandai Namco with a gigantic roster of games, yes, they don't all sell very well, but they've got a huge roster of games, if they ended up making their own platform where they would sell you games directly, I think that could have a negative impact for Valve. I think if Square Enix made their own platform, that would be a bit scary, and I don't put that far out of Square Enix's reach. And I think Valve has become abundantly aware of this fact. Also, with the fact that there's so many other places to buy games now. The Discord store just launched, and that is a legitimate place to buy games. And a lot of those games coming on the Discord store, they have an exclusive early agreement, so they come to the Discord store first, and then they come to Steam. And then you have platforms like GOG, which a lot of people are flocking to. Origin has become an accepted practice, and I know everyone doesn't love the Windows 10 store, but Forza Horizon 4, that game was so awesome, and a game that actually made me and a lot of other people go over to the Windows store and pick that game up. So I think this is a time where Valve has to stop resting on their laurels. Yes, they have all of these games that are still generating them a lot of money, but at some point, somebody's gonna come in and swoop in and start taking away games, and they can't just rest on the fact, hey, all of these other major publishers are gonna release their games on Steam, and we can just take a percentage. Look, do I ever see Steam going away and not being the major PC distribution platform? No, but why not take the steps to make Steam as big as possible, keep the publishers and developers as happy as possible, and take those steps to continue the growth of Steam, because I do think Steam has plateaued a little bit. I don't have any credible evidence backing that statement, but just based on anecdotal evidence, it looks like a lot of people are jumping to other platforms or just open to the idea of using other platforms if it's a mean to play games that they really want to play. And it's better that Valve does something about this now, where it's not become a big issue. Only games like Black Ops 4 and Fallout 76 aren't making an appearance on Steam, but if it extends far beyond that and it's other games, future Square Enix titles, Bandai Namco titles, and then suddenly Steam just becomes this place for indie games and Valve's first-party titles, well then I think Steam will begin to lose a lot of its luster. And from a gamer standpoint, I don't want to have 800 million different applications where I have to launch these games. Could you imagine if I had to go to the Bethesda launcher to play a Bethesda game? I already have to go to Origin to play all the EA games. If I want to play those Microsoft games, I gotta go to the Windows 10 store. If Bandai Namco makes their own platform, if Square Enix makes their own platform, I don't want to juggle through all of these different applications. Give it to me all in one application, and that's the best way to go. So I definitely think this is a good step. However, as I mentioned off the top, I don't have all of the information. I don't really know how impactful this is or how enticing this is to a publisher like Bethesda, or for a franchise like Call of Duty to come back on PC. You would think those major publishers would work out agreements directly with Valve and Steam, but again, I don't know that for a fact. And do remember CD Projekt Red and that Thronebreaker thing. Thronebreaker was heavily promoted as a GOG release. Yeah, it did come to Steam, but you really wouldn't have known that unless you really paid attention. If you watched all the Thronebreaker trailers, GOG was the focal point of it. So I don't put it past, say, CD Projekt Red if they decided, hey, Cyberpunk 2077, that's a game that everybody wants to play anyway. Why are we gonna release that on PC? Why are we going to release that on Steam, have Valve take a significant portion of the cut when we can just put it out on GOG and then take all of the revenue? And a game like Cyberpunk 2077, that would have people flock over to a different platform. Obviously, all of these games are not created equal. Not every game is going to make people jump over to all of these different platforms, but there are outliers and titles that will make people jump over. A Cyberpunk 2077, an Elder Scrolls 6. I know Fallout 76 wasn't a big success, but a game like Elder Scrolls 6 or Starfield, if those games are exclusive to the Bethesda launcher, by God, people are gonna jump over to those platforms, and very well, those games could be exclusive, but that ship of those games being exclusive to those platforms has already sailed. Now it's all about retaining these existing publishers and developers that Valve still has, because again, you don't want a Square Enix leaving Steam, you don't want a Bandai Namco and all of these other major publishers that they still have. A THQ Nordic, that would be pretty bad. The issue is with a Bandai Namco, with the Square Enix, I don't think they have those games that would really get people to jump over, but if you did take all of the Bandai Namco offerings, created your own service, I do think a significant amount of people would jump over as long as the platform is usable. I think best case scenario for Valve, of course, is to retain all of these publishers, and for the gamer, I know some people will say, hey, it's good that there are all of these other options, but you get the idea. I would just love to have all of these games singularly on one platform, and I think a lot of you guys agree with me. That's gonna conclude this video. Went really long on this topic, but I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts. Is Valve doing the right thing? Do you think this could actually retain a lot of these publishers and developers? And what do you think about the future? Do you foresee more publishers leaving Steam and creating their own platform? A CD Projekt Red, they already have GOG to offer DRM-free games. I wouldn't be all too shocked if Cyberpunk 2077 was a game that was exclusive to GOG, and especially for CD Projekt Red, what better way to kick off GOG as an exclusive platform than with a game like Cyberpunk 2077 that so many gamers are excited for. That's gonna conclude this video. If you guys have a request for a future video, leave it in the comments section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.